Today in Science 9, we are describing biodiversity between species so we can explain how species are able to adapt to their environments. So, within species, variations get passed down from children to children. Over time, those variations will build up. Each parent adds a new variation into the gene pool. And once you get enough of them, a process occurs called speciation. And speciation has produced the diversity of life that we see on our planet. Just all of the variations building up over time. You might not think that that can create trees and grass and insects and people and birds and sponges and all of this incredible life that we see on the planet, but it's been working for a very, very long time, longer than the human mind can imagine. And depending on how quickly an organism can reproduce, you can actually build up a lot of changes over a very short period of time. So we get all of these different types of species. And that creates variation between the species, between the ladybugs and the scorpions and the sharks and the nautilus and the hydra and the pine trees and the mushroom. So that variation from species to species is the result of accumulating smaller variations within the species. So a good example of this is the Galapagos finches. Galapagos finches live on the islands of Galapagos off of the coast of South America. They are close enough to the mainland that birds were able to get over there, but far enough away that they are geographically isolated. And at one point, there was just one species of finch that was there. And we actually know that through genetic sequencing. We know all of these birds that I'm showing you on the slide are related to each other. But they all have very different beaks. And they're all different sizes too, but we're going to focus on the beaks here. Each of those different shapes of beaks corresponds with a different type of food that the birds eat. You can see that a lot of the ones that eat seeds have these big cracking jaws, whereas the ones that eat insects have ones that are narrower and better for picking stuff out, while the ones that eat fruits and cactuses are more for carving. That's variations. Those are variations between all of these species, and they've built up over time as different birds' beaks have adapted to different types of food. These variations help the species survive in their environment. So, some variations, like a cat's claws, change their physical body. These are known as structural variations. Our thumbs that we can fold inwards are one of our strongest structural adaptations because they allow us to pick up and manipulate tools really easily. But other variations are variations in ways that you act, which are behavioral adaptations. Lots of animals know to avoid brightly colored insects. Why? Well, because brightly colored insects or amphibians are often brightly colored because they're poisonous. So the organisms that have an instinctual behavior to avoid that are more likely to survive. So think about what types of structural and behavioral variations are in humans. And there's a lot of them. We do lots of different things that are adaptations. And some of them are simple as we take care of our babies for a really long time. Often they are no longer babies, and even more often no longer children. We form lifelong bonds. That's a behavioral adaptation. We also walk upright. That's a structural adaptation that allows us to see far if we're hunting on the plains. So think about adaptations in humans. Why does all this matter, though? Well, this matters because areas with high levels of variation are resistant to sudden environmental changes. And that can be, there's been an earthquake or volcano or tsunami. That can be, there's a food shortage or there's disease. But the more variations there are, the more likely it is that some organisms will survive. And if some of those organisms can survive, they can go to the next generation and start it over, even if the population's been really, really damaged. So the survival of the entire species is staked on variation. If we're all the same, one thing can wipe us out.